so we do asking that you would continue to use our lives in serving others because it enriches and grows our lives. Thank you for this series that we have had. May it continue to be blessed and useful to us, and then as we share it with others. And then, Lord, as we just talked around the table here today, you use our lives and ministries in so many different ways, and we're in a setting to be able to do that. So you know the needs, like the homeschool and the other things that have been mentioned here today. May they continue to be help, encouragement to others, and enrichment to our own lives. We pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome, Stephanie. For those who haven't been in our class, we've been discussing the 7 trumpets, the 7 seals, and the 7 plagues as being all future events, and how they tie into one another. Last week we discussed the seals and how they are linked to the 7th seal is linked to the first of the 7 trumpets, and the scriptures to support that. And today we're going to discuss how the scriptural evidence that the 7th trumpet is how it's connected to the first of the plague. Okay, and to do that, we're going to open our Bibles to the 7th trumpet to see how it's connected to the first plague, and that's in chapter 8, chapter 11. Chapter 11 of Revelation, starting at verse 15. And today, instead of going, you want to go ahead, Katrina?
Sorry,
Oh, go ahead. I always pick her first because I go clockwise.
I'm so used to going
Yeah.
first.
All right, go ahead. What's it say? 15 through, if you don't mind, just read. Read 15 through the rest of the chapter.
Okay. There the 7th angel sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdoms of this world have become the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." And the 24 elders who sat before God on their thrones fell on their faces and worshiped God, saying, "We give you thanks, O Lord God Almighty, the one who is, and who was, and who is to come, because you have taken your great power and reigned. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and the time of the dead that they should be judged, and that you should reward your servants, the prophets and the saints, and those who fear your name, small and great, and should destroy those who destroy the earth." Then the temple of God was opened in heaven, and the ark of his covenant was seen in his temple. And there were lightnings, noises, thunderings, and earthquake, and great hail.
So, looking at this in the context of as it being the entry into the 7 last plagues, that this would mark the close of probation for mankind, for the living and for the dead, in every case decided. Okay, now before we continue, and I'm going to use the analogy that Robert used, a fork in the road, we're going to look at verse 11-18, which has a lot of people have looked at and interpreted in a special way. The end of 11:18, it says that God will destroy them which destroy the earth. And this verse, many people have looked at as an environmental type of issue, where God was going to destroy those who destroy the earth, okay? And I think what we need to do is revisit this because and not look at this verse by itself, and look at other scriptures to support or not support this position. It's very much like the most of the Christian world when they look at the mark of the beast, the mark in the forehead or in the right hand, and they'll say, well, that means it could be a circuit chip in the head or the hand, or it could be a barcode without looking at the other scriptures, like for instance in Exodus, where it says that you will do these things as like the Passover, as a seal in the front. There'll be like a seal in your forehead or in your right hand, that God's law may be in your mouth. We have to use other scriptures to support these positions. And so this position here, thou shouldest destroy them which destroy the earth. We're going to do like a little mini study on this verse. And the first verse in our study will start at Genesis 9:11. Genesis 9:11. And Tammy, would you like to read this? This is and it's good if you want to write this down, because this is like a little Bible study on climate change. Okay, that's basically what it is.
9:11.
Yes.
Thus I establish my covenant with you. Never again shall flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood. Never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth.
Okay. This word destroy is Hebrew word in the Strong's Concordance, H for Hebrew 7873. And in the King James Bible, this word destroy is translated corrupt. Not only destroy, but it's also translated as corrupt. They're used interchangeably, okay? And so let's look at Genesis 6:17. Genesis 6:17. Oh, 6:17, is that where I want? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just check something real quick before you read that, Amy, if you don't mind. Let's see. Where were we before? We were at 9:11, right?
Yeah.
9:11, 8:78. And now we're going to, yes. So this is the same word. Go ahead, Amy. Read that for us. Thank you.
And behold, I, even I, do bring a flood of waters upon the earth, to destroy all flesh, wherein is the breath of life, from under heaven, and everything that is in the earth shall die.
Okay. And so, God is going to destroy the earth here, right? God is destroying the earth. And it's the same word, same Hebrew word, H 7843, that we used before, destroy. Okay. Now, let's look at 6:11, Genesis 6:11, and 11 through 13. Robert, would you like to read that? 11 through 13.
The earth also was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. And God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted his way upon the earth. And God said unto Noah, the end of all flesh is come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth.
All these four instances in verse 11, where it says the earth was corrupt, and God looked upon the earth, and it was corrupt, and all flesh had corrupted, and I will destroy them. All those words are all the same Hebrew word, destroy. Destroy or corrupt. They're used interchangeably. And so you could actually say this, God looked upon, in verse 12, you could say, God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was destroyed. It was ruined. That's basically what it was basically saying. It was ruined. Now let's look at 1 Timothy 6:5.
Timothy 6:5.
Yes, 1 Timothy 6:5.
Useless wranglings of men of corrupt minds and destitute of the truth, who suppose that godliness is a means of gain. From such withdraw yourself.
So this word, corrupt, let's see, I'm going back to that verse here. Yes, that word corrupt is the same word here that you see here, that God should destroy those who destroy the earth. That's the same Greek word, that word corrupt. Greek word 1311. Greek word 1311, yes. When it says God shall destroy them who destroy the earth, that's the same Greek word. So you could revisit this and said God should destroy us them which are corrupting the earth. Okay, and we're going to see how the earth is corrupted. Revelation 8:11-18, which we just read. We're up here, 11:18, and then the next verse is, let's see, 19:2. Revelation 19:2, which uses the same word for destroy, the same root word for destroy, which is translated corrupt in this verse. Revelation, 19:2. Who's next?
True and righteous are his judgments, for he has judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and hath avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. So again, the word corrupt.
The word corrupt is the same word for destroy. The earth is destroyed or corrupted through fornication, through violence, the violence in the land. When in Noah's time, this is the way the earth is corrupted or destroyed. And just a side note here, for the environmental movement says that, well, first of all, God said to be fruitful and multiply. And the more you multiply people, the more carbon dioxide they're going to put out. Okay, and if you take this verse here, "Thou shalt destroy us them which destroy the earth," as a carbon emissions issue, then would it be a sin for me to become a truck driver for a gas or oil company?
Yeah.
Would it be a sin for me to become a CEO of an oil company? What would constitute a sin that I would deserve to be destroyed if I was to, quote unquote, destroying the earth? And another thing too, that most people don't realize, what percentage of the atmosphere do you think right now total is carbon dioxide?
Not much, about 0.04.
Oh, so wow, Troy, you hit the nail on the head. 0.04%.
0.07, 0.04, so it was somewhere.
That's a very small amount.
Just enough to feed the plant. Yeah.
And the water vapor can vary from 0 to 4%, which is far greater greenhouse gas, but you can't control the water vapor. So, and of that 0.04%, how much of it's man-made? 50% of it, maybe? How about 3%? Only 3% of it. Okay. And so what does the spirit of prophecy say about coal and oil? The vast forests buried in the earth at the time of the flood and since have changed to coal form the extensive coal fields and yield the supplies of oil that minister to our comfort and convenience today. These things, as they are brought to light, are so many witnesses mutely testifying to the truth of the word of God. And so that's the reason why we have those oil fields. It's basically it's God's compost pile. It's all the leaves and the trees and everything have formed those and formed them. So they minister to our comfort and convenience. And so that's the end of that. Now I want to discuss, go back to our linkage here and talk about back to Revelation chapter 11. 19.
So Jim, sorry, just to go back to what you're talking about. So if you had to summarize that, all those verses, because you were saying that, I'm trying to grasp exactly. You're saying the destroy and corrupt are similar in the Bible, and so are you saying that could be corrupt instead of destroy?
So I think I have the same question. So what's the point?
The point is that no one is destroying the earth, in other words, through environmental practices.
Oh.
It's being destroyed through fornication and violence. That's how it's being destroyed. Moral corruption, not physical corruption. No one is destroying the earth physically. Only person who has destroyed the earth is God at the time of the flood. No one else has ever destroyed the earth.
But there are environmental things that are happening that certainly are impacting the health of, like when I was in Indonesia and noted how much plastic is in the water. You know, things like that, to me, there are things that are happening that are indeed destroying the environment.
But
and
it-
having
but
a very negative impact.
Oh, no question about it. But who is God going to single out to destroy? Who is destroying the earth? Who's responsible for that?
Sort of everybody.
You see, you put your finger on one person and say, that person's going to be destroyed because he is destroying the earth. No question, the earth is wearing out. It's being polluted. No, definitely. There's no hope for this earth. Only hope is in Jesus Christ coming back and restoring it, because it's getting
So
worse.
your point is that, you know, there's no one single person or group of people that, you know, sort of God has his finger on.
Exactly.
Because we're all really responsible. I mean, you can try to do things, but yeah.
Yeah, if you just have more children, even, you're producing more carbon dioxide. You know,
And more trash.
and more trash.
Not good.
What do you say?
Sometimes, but most of the time,
That's a horrible. God will make. I was reading a devotional how God is going to make all things new, pristine. I don't know how there's not going to be anything wasted in heaven. Everything's going to be clean and new.
Well, he created Adam and Eve to be good stewards of what he gave them.
Oh,
and we're
definitely.
not.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, you know, to me, some of the issue, you know, like you mentioned oil companies or whatever, you know, in a lot of big business in general, there's really so much corruption. It's not just, it's not about the, you know, only about the environment.
Mm-hmm.
It's about just business practices that are taking advantage,
Absolutely.
you know, of people from all countries and stuff. It's just insane the amount of, you know, income that some of these companies make and their CEOs is just insane.
I think a good study would be to see how do a search on the word corruption and see what does God say, how the earth is being corrupted. And it is for fornication, it's through violence, it's through all these horrible things.
just like it was before.
Just before the flood, yeah. The earth was corrupted before the Lord.
And back then, I mean, we didn't have all of the petroleum-based materials that are polluting the world right now. Everything was rock and, you know, wood and, you know, the metals and stuff like that just return back to the earth. So now that we've created this, it's just like everybody's pushing for the electric cars and all that stuff. Well, if you look in Africa, like the absolute just disgustingness. They've got kids digging the cobalt out of the ground. Like it's just absolute insanity.
Yeah.
And all the rechargeable batteries and cars and all that stuff is coming from that. And you're like, it's kind of interesting that they're pushing that when it's much more like disastrous to farm it, to create it, and then it's much more disastrous for the environment to try to break it down. And it's very interesting when you think about how that's proliferating so greatly now to save the environment, but it's actually way worse.
Yeah,
Way worse.
a lot of controversy. A lot of you try to do one thing good on one side and it ends up hurting something else. Yeah.
We're in futile efforts going nowhere without God.
That's it.
Saw a report yesterday talking about these solar panels. You know, hey, those are great. But till they have to try to recycle them, and they don't know what to do with them. And the fan blades on the windmills, they don't know what to do with them.
Yeah. And solar panels lose their efficiency every year too. They eventually have to be thrown out.
And look at your plastics, you can recycle in this county 1 and 2, but the rest of them, they go into the dump.
Right.
And they filled it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And so getting back to our study, the last verse,
That's what I want.
the last verse of 11:19 says, Janice, you'd like to read that for us? 11:19. This is the last part of the last trumpet of the 7 trumpets. It says, what does it say?
And the temple of God was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament. And voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail.
Okay, and so it says here, the very first words is the temple of God was open in heaven. Is there another place in Revelation where it says the temple of God was open in heaven? And that is at the beginning of the first plague in Revelation 15:5. We can start at 15:1. It says, Ken, would you like to read 15:1 through 5?
Okay. And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. And I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass having the harps of God. And they sing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb, saying, Great and marvelous are thy works, Lord God Almighty. Just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. Who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? For thou only art holy. For all nations shall come and worship before thee, for thy judgments are made manifest. And after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened.
Okay, so here we have the link where it's open, and it says it was open, and when it was open, this marks the end of God's intercession. Now, since 1844, Jesus has entered the most holy place, and now has been in there since. And now, at the close of probation, Christ will leave the most holy place, and there will be no intercessor anymore. And that's when the seven last plagues fall. So the point of this is the links we have between the last seventh trumpet and the first plague is the opening of the temple. Okay.
Can I, just for clarification, can you link how opening the temple is end of probation?
Well, when the temple is open, that's when it has to be open for the
Day of Atonement, is that why?
the Day of Atonement. The high priest has to come out. So he's gone in. Now, and this is assuming now when the high priest goes in at the 1844, when the judgment, the high priest goes in, that the veil is not left open. That when he goes in, the veil is closed behind him. That's what I'm assuming. Okay, and I've looked for evidence. I thought about this morning, and I haven't found evidence for it yet. But I feel that veil is closed behind him when he's ministering in there. I don't think it's open for people to be looking out from the courtyard to see what he's doing in front of that ark. And then so when Christ leaves, when that veil reopens and Christ leaves, that's when the temple is open again, and intercession stops. Intercession stops. Okay, and I think this deserves more study into this topic. Okay, this is just something where I saw where the seventh trumpet says the temple is open, and so does the first the first plague say that the temple was open.
Jim, does the use of the bells around the garment go along with what you're saying? Because they knew if the bell stopped that there had something had happened, so it must be they could not see in there.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for that. I knew someone would come up with something that the veil was closed.
That would be a confirmation in
Yeah.
my mind, at least.
Yeah, because I looked for veil closed or behind, but that's true.
You mean in the olden days, or you mean in heaven that the veil's closed?
Both. Both is a symbol of.
How do we know? Because when Jesus died, the veil was torn, right?
That's true.
So then, how do we know in heaven there's still a veil? It doesn't matter.
Mhm.
I mean, it doesn't matter if there's a veil or not.
Yes.
Everything in the earthly sanctuary was a symbol of something in the heavenly, either in reality, because we don't know what's symbolic and what's an actual concrete.
Yeah.
I mean, the temple was destroyed here on earth. Doesn't mean the temple is destroyed in heaven. right?
Exactly.
Because like you said, the veil is rent in two here, but not necessarily in heaven.
So the priests on earth stopped interceding for the people?
No.
Then why would that happen in heaven?
They still still intercede now.
Well, I just heard you say something about Jesus stopped interceding for us.
Well, we'll stop
Well, he's
interceding
talking
for
about
it at the close of probation.
Yeah.
So how long is till there's their probation until Jesus comes? There's still kids being born and stuff. So if no one's interceding for them.
There'll be a time when every case has been decided and probation closes. When that is going to happen, we don't know.
Right, at the moment of the second coming. Right?
It'll be before.
But he says it's before.
Before the plague.
The 7 plagues have to fall on the wicked. And that will include children of those families too. I mean, when Israel went in to take Canaan, some of those cities were full of women, children, and families that were.
But that's when it makes no sense for intercession to stop when there's still being people born and they need a chance to make a decision.
Well, you have to,
That's not
you
fair.
have to accept what God tells us.
Yeah, but if God's just, he
He's-
wouldn't stop
he is-
interceding.
Well, doesn't mean that those children being born who won't be saved.
He might know ahead of time.
Plus, God doesn't judge ignorance, right?
That's true. He doesn't. That's
Right.
true. And that's a good point, Shannon, because
If you don't know,
Yeah.
then he's not gonna crush you.
yeah, it says in Ellen White says in early writings that she saw an innumerable company of little ones with a red hem on their garment. Those are probably the children who are killed or aborted even. You know, so
Miscarriages?
what?
Miscarriages?
Miscarriages, yeah.
They were martyrs. The martyrs had the red border on their robes.
That's right. That's what she said. And then she said, and then I saw an innumerable company of little ones who also had the same red hem on there. Yeah, that's true.
Maybe they were martyrs.
I appreciate that this class has the freedom to ask. Our teachers have always been open to that. I know it takes more time to get to where we're trying to get to, but this is so important that we do that we have freedom to ask. We may not have all of the answers, and that's okay. But to make it practical and to make it apply to our own lives, otherwise we're just getting information.
Exactly.
So thank you for taking time.
Oh, sure. No problem. I feel that we're going to have just one more class after this. and that'll cover the 7 churches. And I actually had planned that, so I'm glad that we're having this. There's plenty of time for us to finish today, and the next one, okay?
We have eternity.
Stephanie, in case you don't, this is my 9th class now. It'll be 10 will be a nice number for to end.
Well,
Okay.
playing off of what Will said, we are planning for eternity, aren't we? Where we won't have any.
That's right.
Like we have the rest.
We'll have no more days to sing God's praise than when we had before, right?
Right.
Okay. All right. So, we are going. What time do we have now?
1:45.
Oh, 1:45. Okay. We have 10 more minutes.
Yeah,
250.
10:15.
Roughly.
When is class supposed to end?
5 till.
5 till.
5
Okay.
till.
Okay. We have 10 minutes. Okay. And so, in Wikipedia, it says it makes this statement in 1607. There was a man named Thomas Brightman who passed away only at the age of 45 years old, and he wrote a commentary on Revelation. And Wikipedia says, and there may have been people before, but this is what Wikipedia says. He was the first to propose a historicist interpretation of the 7 churches of Revelation 2 through 3, saying that the 7 churches were 7 historic time periods, starting with the apostles. And in his writings, he stated that the Church of Laodicea was his time frame back in 1607. Okay, today we say in general that our church period is Laodicea. Okay, so it's and these are the 7 churches here. They're numbered 1 through 7, and if you see here on the in the ocean here, there's the island of Patmos. Let me go back here. The island of Patmos down here at the bottom. And that's where John was when he wrote the letters to the 7 churches, and this is Revelation chapters 2 and 3. We're going to go through more detail next Sabbath on these. But it's interesting to note that they're in the order. Number 1 is closest to Patmos, and that's the church of Ephesus, and that the letters are written in the order that one would go from city to city on a highway around in a circle, in a semicircle, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And even today, they have. Has anybody ever gone to visit any of these churches before? I never have. Oh, you did, Kent?
I have been in Ephesus and I forget, but I was in Turkey and.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Because I know they have tours where you could, like a 7-church tour if you want to. Yeah, that'd be really interesting. 7-church tour. And so, Ellen White mentions these churches, and this is one of the statements that she has made, which has given impetus, and I've heard from the pulpit people mentioning, it says Ellen White herself said that the church of Laodicea, the Laodicea message is applicable to the church at this time. Okay, so it says, well, there we go. Laodicea is our time. However, she does mention the other churches also. She says, in the message of the church of Sardis, 2 parties are presented. Study this message found in the 3rd chapter of Revelation. To the church of the present day, this message is sent. Now, it's interesting to note that, so she says, I call upon church members to read the whole of the 3rd chapter of Revelation, Sardis, Philadelphia, and Laodicea, and make application of it. And so, everybody here could probably say at least a piece of what was the message of the church of Laodicea. Lukewarm. Right, lukewarm. Anything else? Anything else about Laodicea?
I think they're rich.
Huh? Right, ISAV. Anything else? Oh, who said that?
I think they're rich.
You think they're rich? Right, I think they're rich. We know a lot about the Church of Laodicea. We hear it all the time from the pulpit. It's preached quite a bit because it's assumed that this message is for us, and they're correct. Ellen White says the Laodicean message is applicable to the church at this time. But she said also about the church of Sardis, to the church of the present day, this message is sent. Does anybody remember anything about the church of Sardis? No, we don't. But we don't, because we rarely ever hear of it. In fact, I heard a minister once preach and say that we don't need to really look at those other churches, just to Laodicea, because those churches are past. And I think that this doctrine of looking at the churches as 7 historical time periods really, really hurt us, because whenever we hear a message on the 7 churches, we'll hear a little bit about the spiritual application usually, and then a large portion of it is how it matches historically. Okay, I think that there are so many precious lessons in these 7 churches. These were 7 churches with 7 different problems, all at the same time, and we are all the same way. We could learn lessons from these spiritual lessons from all these 7 churches and apply them to our lives. That's why Jesus said over and over and over again at the end of each church, he who hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches, because it is a very important message. Like, for instance, let's look at the church. Does anybody remember what the very first church is? Oh, you can see it on the screen there, right? Ephesus, right? Ephesus. Okay. And Ephesus says the following. This is from a letter that Ellen White wrote. She said, in the message to the church of Ephesus, Christ is represented as holding 7 stars in his hand and walking in the midst of the 7 gold candlesticks. He is represented as walking among them, thus illustrating his constant diligence in behalf of his church. He that keepeth Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps, nor is he become indifferent. You know, isn't it wonderful we have a God that doesn't, he could just say, oh, they'll just take care of themselves, but he's not indifferent. It says, these figures are to be carefully studied by the under-shepherds and faithfully applied to their own experience, that they may not lose sight of their great privilege of securing light from the source of all light, giving it in turn to those with whom they labor. Okay, so here is another issue why this church of Ephesus is so important for us today. And I came to this conclusion when I was reading. I have my Bible has Ellen White commentary, and we looked here. Look at this, is page after page after all this stuff you hear is all commentary. The only stuff at the top is actually the Bible, but there is no historical references anywhere in any of her comments, all of them spiritual. And I think that's the approach that we got to take, is that we have to look at the spiritual application of this, because in my opinion, connecting it to a historical context doesn't really give us any benefit except to obscure some of the spiritual application. I think there's a lot more study needs to be done on the spiritual applications of the seven churches, and not the historical. And so that's it for today. Next class, we will go over the spiritual application and close the seven churches, seals, trumpets, and plagues study. Okay.